Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning into another Supatease video. And you may not know, but I am currently underway with a 2400 rating solo shuffle challenge to get 2400 in the season 1 of the War Within on every single class. I'm looking to complete this challenge for Warlock on the Affliction specialization, and I wanted to run through some tips and important lessons that are going to enable you the same type of success that I am now starting to see. So against multiple melee DPS, you want to start the game with a Soulburn Gateway and a Portal, and focus on kiting and avoiding them. So I'm using Cursive Exhaustion on both of the melee attackers. I'm using Phantom Singularity very early to start getting off heals, and then I'm portaling out of line of sight of the enemy attackers behind the pillar, trying to cast on anything that can't interrupt me, which in this position was the healer, before immediately going back to line of sighting. I'm just focusing on trying to limit uptime and escape both of them as much as possible. With a Ret Paladin on my team and Blessing of Freedom, that makes it a lot easier, but we're going to use Demonic Gateway to get to the midfield. We get Grit back in, but it's not too big of a worry here. I'm going to pop my Unending Resolve on this and free cast on the healer and just do as much damage as possible to that target in the back. I portal out the line of sight of the Ultimate Penitence, major enemy cooldowns, good idea to portal away from them, and then reload dots over onto the Death Knight. You can see that I'm kiting the warrior this entire time as well, while dotting up the Death Knight and focusing on just avoiding them as much as possible. When they do both connect, I'm using my Dark Pact at high health because it absorbs more of the higher health that you use it. So even if you're not stunned and you're just getting attacked, you kind of want to toss that out. I toss out a full row of dots, and even though I could cast right now like a second earlier, I'm focused on making the enemy as annoyed as possible for getting uptime so that they stop chasing me and basically give up on attacking me so I can free cast and do what I want. So finally, you can see the enemy melee attackers kind of give up on attacking me. I've got another freedom. I can kite away, use Cursive Exhaustion, get some distance. I like using Haunt to fake interrupts because it's a really fast cast. And I'm also playing the Kultiran. So if I can't get through the kicks, I can just Kultiran, punch someone into the corner, and then Haunt Shadow Bolt combo them. And it's really satisfying whenever you actually get that combination off. We managed to fake a kick here using Fear or Haunt are typically like the go-tos. If you get kicked, you just spam Malefic Rapture. It's not too big of a deal anyways. And now that the interrupts are on cooldown, I'm starting to free cast. I'm just loading up full dots onto the healer, full dots onto the melee attackers, and I think it's really important against double melee that you do toss some damage towards the healer, especially against Discipline Priests, because they do struggle with triple target cleave damage, probably one of their major weaknesses. I see a Hodge on the healer, but I'm just going to Soulburn Port away from the middle as I see my Mistweaver in a Stormbolt, and I'm just focusing on line of sighting, waiting for my monk to get back to me, and then using Cursive Exhaustion as the melee attackers come a bit closer, repositioning towards the middle of the map again to be able to portal out of line of sight as soon as my Demonic Circle comes off of cooldown. Here I'm using a Shadow Fury. I got a precognition proc, so I'm just spamming fears and spamming Shadow Furies, getting control of the melee, and then just portaling. As soon as it's available, Soulburn portaling with sprint and just running for my life the entire time. Like, this is one of the hardest types of matchups, is like a Fury Warrior and a Death Knight. In this types of instance, we're going to use Coil and Gate away. This way I don't get Death Crypt immediately. We get a Haunt out. We got our Phantom Singularity. We got our Soul Rot. So I'm looking to fake the kick. Soul Rot is up. And we're going to be doing a ton of damage now that we've got that out. We're getting all the extra secondaries. I port behind the pillar and CS the Priest and nail in the kill. So the main goal, run. The main goal is to pretend that you are Forrest Gump. Okay, that is the main goal. Pretend that Jenny is yelling at you to run the entire game, and that is what you're going to do. Your goal is to make the enemy as annoyed as possible in hitting you until the point where they give up on trying to hit you. And then as soon as you've assessed that, that's when you want to focus on turning the tide around and start doing some damage of your own. So this time around, we got a warrior. I don't have the Blessing of Freedom, so my mobility is going to be stretched a little bit more thin, but it's the same game plan. Get the portal behind the pillar, get the Soulburn Gate going across the map, and then focus on getting out of line of sight of the enemy attackers. Normally, I like mounting up, honestly, but in this position, I didn't. We got Cursive Exhaustion on both melee attackers. I'm baiting the Freedom. I'm not standing in their line. I'm limiting their uptime. Basically, just make it so only one of them can hit me as much as possible. Try and go for a cast. You get kicked. Again, we don't really care. We just Malefic Rapture. We'll Haymaker the red away on his cooldowns in the opener here and start kiting towards away from the Ret Paladin, getting some distance from their interrupts. There I was out of range, so I went for the Unstable Affliction. We fake a kick here with the Haunt because it's a faster cast. Now we can get the Haunt out onto the Ret Paladin, a UA and a Soul Rot. And if we get kicked, we just spam Malefic Rapture. So there we get kicked, whatever, Malefic Rapture, port back behind the pillar, bait them to line the Priest, gate in the middle of the map to dot the healer for free here while there's no interrupts near me. And no interrupts are available. I see the Ret getting low. Want to focus some more damage with the instant Shadow Bolts towards him. Now I'm kind of limited on mobility, so I use Unending Resolve, and I kind of just plant here with Soul Rot, and I just do as much damage as I can, and I force Divine Shield. So you kind of want to like double whammy your Unending Resolve. When you run out of mobility and you're kind of stuck, you're going to take a lot of damage. it's a good time to pop it to just kind of like counter aggress your opponents, and don't be like super frugal with it where you're using it like 10% and then you don't even get to cast with it and you just kind of die. I feel like that's like the most common mistake I see with Warlocks. We're going to coil the Death Knight behind the pillar here. Unstable Affliction, Curse of Weakness on the ret. These melee are a little bit more mobile, so I'm focusing more on Curse of Weakness than I am on Curse of Exhaustion, because the ret can just kind of freedom it off. It's not a big deal. We're getting Shadow Bolt procs. We're using Fear here on the ret, just getting control of him while he's bopped, because the warrior can't attack into the bop, so I'm just annoying the ret, annoying him. There's no kick, so I'm casting as much as possible, tracking the kicks with my Omni bar here above my details. That's an add-on I highly recommend that you get. You can see it tracks the rebuke there for the ret paladin. I know he doesn't have for 12 more seconds. Report back behind the pillar. I'm line of sight of Death Grip. Toss out some dots for free onto any target that I can. Just keep pumping out numbers as much as possible. I'm not dotting the healer here as much as I kind of like ideally would like to. I think I just got a little bit ahead of myself in this matchup with going after the ret, but we fake a kick. We can go for a coil. We're using Fear, we're spamming Fear, we're just trying to control enemy attackers. We've got our port available here in this position as well, and I think we just kind of like overrun the Death Knight. He starts running away. I'm going to Shadow Free the Death Knight. He kicks me, whatever, Malefic Rapture. I'm not really worried about it. So anytime interrupts are coming through, I just keep kind of going for it, and I just line aside to the Death Knight, avoiding him as much as possible, because I see my warriors get the other guy really low, and I'm almost just about to die. So again, run force, run strat. We gate, we get gripped. Who cares? Monks managed to top me. I got a Shadow Bolt proc here with a Haunt, trying to fake the kicks, and warrior takes him down with a Blade Storm in that position. So now we're able to actually survive. So you can see with melee DPS, main focus is just kind of running away. Would have liked to dot the healer that round a little bit more than I did. But yeah, I think it's still more important to just focus on surviving in these lobbies where you get multiple melee DPS. We have a Death Knight on our team. Death Knight's not too strong, so I'm a bit worried about this with Fury Warrior and a ret. You know, basically a freedomed Fury Warrior is really scary as far as being able to get away, but we're going to try and do our best. This is the type of matchup there where I would actually like to kind of just start on my mount and just run around the pillar until they get bored of chasing me, but we need to get a gate and a port first, and the warrior leaps first global, so I can't really get on my mount. I was going to line and get on my mount, but we Dark Pact right away, toss out an Exhaustion on the ret, weakness on the warrior, gate away from the warrior, just trying to burn the mobility, fake the reflect, get it off with corruption, as opposed to UAing yourself. UAing yourself is really risky. I see the grip double blind, so got some distance. I can free cast with the port here. I got a Haunt, got the whole combo off, got the Soul Rot off, can Dark Glare the Soul Rot. This is an excellent kind of opening stage of the game for us, although maybe would have preferred the dots to be on the ret paladin, as my Death Knight is focusing the ret, but I think the warrior honestly is kind of a better focus. We get a double Shadow Fury, we're cleaving them, things are going well. We've got the healer and a leg sweep, and we forced a bubble. So now we get Spell Reflect off again with corruption. We get put into a fear. Our monk's also in a fear, so portaling here is a good idea whenever your healer is in crowd control, and I'm tracking that here with Omni CD. I actually think it's big debuffs that's tracking the fear, and I can see that on the Mistweaver's frame anytime that it's up. Mistweaver's now in a blinding light. We're kind of low, so I Hellstone before Dark Pacting with a Soul Burn, so it boosts the health, and then the Dark Pact will absorb a lot because I'm higher health after using the Hellstone. Phantom Singularity on cooldown, really important. It gives you a little bit of extra healing support. It makes it easier to stagger the damage for your healer. I'm trying to pull him out of the barrier. We get a nice Ring of Peace here. He's got a bop, so I'm just spamming fear on him again, trying to annoy him during that immunity to some of my Death Knight's damage, and trying to bait the healer to dispel it on Unstable Affliction, basically. Would like to have been attacking the priest more in this matchup, and this is why VOD review is really good to do if you want to improve your gameplay, like recording your gameplay and looking back at it, because I didn't really attack the priest at all in this game, and I think it would have helped for overall pressure. And I kind of get stuck here. There's no port, there's no cooldowns. You know, we had maybe any magic zone, but it was unlikely to really save me in that position. Gate was like about 3 seconds away. A tough position. I think just doing more damage to the priest may have put me or my team in a better position to be able to close it out before that point. Maybe they wouldn't have felt as comfortable to chase me as aggressively as they did. So this is the type of deal with like looking back at your gameplay and trying to get something out of it to be able to improve yourself for the future rounds that you're going to be queuing, as opposed to kind of just leaving it in the fog and never really focusing on any specificity. That's not a word. I just made that up. Okay. But the gameplay is not made up. We're moving into the next round with the Ret Paladin. This time we've got the Discipline Priest healing us. So a little bit less pump heals from a Discipline Priest, but it's the same plan. Got a gate, got a port, and I'm trying to mount, but again, he gets around the corner before I can. We Dark Pact first global, kind of just the same over to double melee, exhaustion, gate away from the exhaustion, try and get dots on the healer. We get gripped, we can't. Now we kind of got a fake kick, so we get Phantom Singularity up, we get gripped away, we get ripped back in, and then we're going to port, because that's a lot of stuff, and I'm tired of dealing with it. But hey, he gets to me and he kicks me. We're not too worried. We'll just punch him away with a Haymaker, try and go for more dots. Strangulate on me means the can't strangulate the healer, so I'm not terribly upset with this. Now we're going to use weakness onto them because they're going to be able to get some uptime here. And I should be trying to spell lock the Mistweaver and fear the Mistweaver. So Mistweavers have really high throughput. It's a lot harder to kill them as like a dot class as a healer. I think crowd controlling them is a lot more effective. So we use fear and we use Hodge. We get his trinket. I can double shadow for the DPS. Repentance is really effective as well with the paladin that I'm playing with. So Mistweavers, you crowd control them. You don't try and rot them. Their healing is way too high, but you do want to try and make sure you interrupt them and avoid interrupting into their aura mastery, which they can use pretty frequently. So this crackle right here I could have spell locked, but they're both connecting, so I'm just going to pop Dark Pact. I don't have a port for a while. I'm going to have to tank some damage, so I'd rather have this absorb be a higher value. And then I'm just trying to move away, but I kind of out of mobility. So I'm going to pop my ending resolve, free cast, make sure that I'm getting my most powerful spells out there with the soul rot, refresh the weaknesses, we spell lock the Mistweaver. I kind of walked out of his barrier, but I was really intending to port. It's a tough call with like using barrier with a warlock as a healer because your port's just so strong. It just stops 100% of the damage, right? You kind of want to save those cooldowns when you're healing a warlock until they've run out of mobility. We fake a kick, we'll call the warrior off. Looks like he blade stormed it. It looked really laggy that he got it off in that time, but we get a blessing of protection, which means I'm immune to touch of death and physical attacks. It will soul burn Hellstone and go for a fear while we're immune to interrupts. We get a full fear over onto the Mistweaver, so we're just tracking those cooldowns. And now the Mistweaver's feared away. We're getting Shadow Bolt procs probably here in a second. We can port back behind the pillar, maybe spell lock him, but he aura masteries. So this is the aura mastery, the Thunder Tea. You don't want to interrupt while that's up because they'll be immune to it. Just give him precog and you won't be very happy in that position. Refresh dots, look for fakes on Shadow Fury, got the fake on the kick, Haunt goes out, Shadow Bolt proc, Shadow Fury, and then look for a fear. Spell lock, a little bit too slow here on the Mistweaver, so we can precog, we get gripped away. Now this is the part where like if you get pulled out of your portal positioning, just relay your gate. It's really now unfortunate that he gripped me on top of me gaining because I was going to gate, put a port down, and then get kind of like reset up my camp because sometimes you'll get pulled into a bad position out of range of your port, much like this. But now with the grip on my gate, I'm really kind of just like stuck in the middle of the map, and because I'm stuck, I'm just focusing on damage and CC. I see an opportunity to slip a fear while there's no interrupts, so I'll get a fear on the healer and not focus on defense. I'll just focus on ending the game in that instance of time. So that's where I like flipped the switch because I got pulled into a spot where like I was not gonna be able to get out of there safely. We got to get aggressive. I see Monk no trinket. I see on my Omnibar that they have no interrupts to stop my cast, so I'm fearing out of that stun, and I'm standing here and hoping to God that we can win the game. So we got another round with the Death Knight. Chains of Ice is really nice, but they got Blessing of Freedom, and they got Horses, and they got Leaps, and they're really fast. So it's probably not going to matter too much, but same focus. Also, our CC is much more limited because basically all DR. We don't really have a lot of CC for the Mistweaver. So it may be better in this situation to kind of dot the Monk if you don't have CC in your composition, but it's the same plan. Gate and a port, Warrior leaps in, but this time he wasn't fast enough, so I can get on my mount. Now, when you're on your mount, you kind of just run away from him. You just want to make him have to use a charge. The whole goal, like here, so now the Warrior's down one gap closer. That's the goal, and I just continue moving on the mount, and then I port away from the cooldown. So Warriors, when they pop Avatar, they get Recklessness at the start of it, so you really want to avoid the first couple seconds of Avatar. It's the scariest point. That's why I just like instantly ported away from it rather than letting him try and get any globals. And you want to crowd control the Warrior during that window, so I'm using Coil during that. I got a Soul Rot during the Coil, and we're just going to gate away. So you want to limit that first 10 seconds of Avatar as much as possible and stagger the damage. Mouse is getting clipped on the ceiling there, but I'm trying to get a Shadow Fury. I'm using Haunt to try and pump a fake on his pummel. We strangulate the Warrior. That's not going to help us out too much as far as getting ahead, but we're going to portal back away from all the damage we're taking, try and sneak in for a fear, but the Monk's on DR anyway, so I'm just line of sighting. And I'm pulling away from the portal. I just want them to use as many mobility cooldowns as they have before they ultimately get back to me. Now I'm in that same spot where I don't have a port, I don't have a gate, so think about using unending resolve in these positions. I managed to sneak in a fear. It's just going to get sanctuaried. We get life grip. This is a really good life grip to pull the Warlock away from their port, and then they can port afterwards. So the Warrior's already used another gap closer. I'm trying to look for a Shadow Fury. I get kicked. I should honestly be porting just during this time. I think I didn't port because my healer's not CC'd and my port's on the other side of the map. So I was a bit worried about porting here. So I just stun the Warrior with a Haymaker, stun the Ret with a Shadow Fury, and I kind of get around their interrupts, and now I'm going to port. I see the Monk ring a piece me in a line and do a leg sweep. He feels really cool probably right now. Try and fake his kick, but instantly kicked. Monks do have an interrupt, so you have to be careful when they're next to you. And we've got Void Shift from the Priest, but I don't know if he actually gets it off in time here. Maybe he does. We're just casting. Again, I don't care if the Ret kicks me. The kick is only 2 seconds long. If we got the swap off there, maybe we can keep this game going. We got Fear DRs coming up. Maybe we can do something. So we definitely had cooldowns this round to trade. I don't know how much this is. Sometimes when you look at the VOD back, it's not going to always be completely your fault. And it's just the nature of solo shuffle. It's a team game. So sometimes it won't be. But I think it's also bad to always try and say it's somebody else's fault. But that round specifically, if we had some more options to keep it going, I definitely think the outcome could have been changed. But now we're moving around 6-6. We're going to try our best to try and get 4 wins here against the double melee. This is Freedom Death Knight. Again, can be really tough to get away, but same plan is just run in, get your gateway across, get your port behind the pillar, and then reposition out of line of your port as soon as possible. And I like just moving to try and get on my mount sometimes, but we're out of line of our thing. He's used Freedom, so we got to use Curse of Weakness and not Exhaustion, because Exhaustion won't apply into Freedom and you'll burn your soul shard, so don't make that mistake. We're using Curse of Weakness here, getting the dots up with Jinx and getting a tons of pressure, our Fan of Singularity out, and then we go for casting. So we got some barrier, we get the barrier down buffering us, so I kind of don't want to move here. I just want to cast. Interrupts are down. I can pump out a lot of damage, so we got Haunt into Shadow Fury, Shadow Bolt combos. Dots are fully loaded. I'm looking to try and spell lock the Monk. I'm just going to port behind the pillar on the zone, though. You can't really do a lot of magic damage in the magic zone. And I just dot pets. I just dot anything that really comes to my line here while I'm waiting. Again, the main goal is to just annoy them, make them waste any potential mobility in an attempt to try and get back to you, so that when you use the gateway or your portal comes off cooldown, they're going to have way less ways of getting back to you. And it makes it a lot easier. Monk has immunity to kicks here for that crackle. We fake a kick, though. We go for the Haunt Shadow Bolt combo. We get a UA up, Soul Rot out. This is exactly what you want to do when you get a precog, is, cast the slower, harder to cast spells like Soul Rot when you can't. Or when you can, sorry. But now Revival from the Monks. We can't interrupt into Revival either, but we Time of Fear. Stormbolt gets magic bopped. We force Bubble anyway, so that's all their buttons. I need to just get out of there. All right, we got every single cooldown from them. I'm going to try and avoid some damage. Port behind the pillar, gate to the middle, get gripped, and be sad. Pop a Fan of Singularity here on cooldown would likely be the wise move, but we Haymaker the Ret Paladin away. And then we Fan of Singularity, Haunt, Shadow Bolt him. We're trying to fake kicks here. Again, who cares? Malefic Rapture, we got kicked. This is like another big mistake I see Warlocks make, is where they're just kind of like scared to cast, and you should just cast. It's just, try and fake, but don't just sit there not trying to cast all the time. We Stormbolt the red, he's fully dotted, we blast him out, and we're able to take the dub in the Quadra, or the Triple Warrior, Triple Melee lobby, pump ourselves up closer to the 2400 challenge. This is the similar advice to what I was basically discussing in Dragonflight, except now Haunt is a more viable option, and you really want to use it to try and support your burst damage. You're much more burst focused as an Affliction Warlock now in the War Within, and you can win with crowd control like Fear and Interrupts with those kind of burst windows. So I hope you guys enjoyed this PvP tips and discussion for Affliction Warlock. Let me know if it's helped you in the comments down below. As always, I'm uploading content related to news related to World of Warcraft, so you want to make sure you're staying up to date. Smash the subscribe button. Your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.